Hey everybody, I know it's been a while since we've been on the air. We've had, unfortunately, it hasn't been a good few past couple of weeks. I had a family member die, so that bumped things back. That got taken care of. Then Windows 10 decided to basically wipe out everything, and so I spent about 2 or 3 weeks rebuilding almost 12 terabytes worth of files. Um, Got them going, and I was going to do a broadcast this past week covering some of the tax issues and the age bans and so forth that are happening in the States because they're also affecting things in Canada and elsewhere. And I figured that'd be a good topic. Um, but then, because the election's coming up, all these different states started slipping in their proposals and propositions for vape tax, smoking taxes, tobacco taxes, raise the taxes. And it was almost impossible to keep up. So I figured, fine, we'll wait till the election and then cover it. Now, some got passed, so most didn't. But anyhow, so that was the plan. Unfortunately, camera crapped out again, so got that all worked out. And I was expecting to do cover the tax thing this weekend. Except this morning, Facebook had a rather nasty little surprise for me. Now, as you know, Vape Distortion, we have the Facebook group, and we post and cover as much of the international news and articles as we can. We try and cover everything, whether it's the WHO, the big conference in Delhi, pretty much everything, the taxes, so forth. And I guess we pissed off a lot of people because we're trying to link in information and people are sharing it all over the place. Well, give you an idea. Here's what we came into. Now, the group page is there. The main personal page isn't, but that's fine because that's not what's used. It's the group page. Except for one problem. Facebook decided they want to lock the admin account, which handles it all. Because normally, if we're paying attention, anybody who tries advertising, we don't do advertising. We don't advertise the products. It's strictly for advocacy issues, topical issues. Whether it's is this bottling right, wrong? Is it marketing to kids? A little bit of everything. So we got in, and first thing I normally do in the morning is check for any spam ads and posts and automatically delete them and give those people a permanent ban. So I went to log in, and guess what? Facebook decided they didn't want the vape advocacy there, and if I log in, here's what we get. For security reasons, your account is temporarily locked. No explanation, nothing saying, okay, your account's been reported for whatever kind of infraction or anything else. It's just no access. So, sorry, this beard's driving me nuts, but I haven't even bothered shaving because, like I said, it's been hectic. So please excuse it. Normally, I'm not as scruffy. Um, but anyhow, so yeah, they've locked the account. Group members can still post, but we've got no way to approve new people. We've got no way to get rid of the spammers. I mean, there is a spammer on here right now, and there it is there. Can't get rid of it. But guess what? And this is a big if, because when we get access to the account, that person's gone and they get a permanent ban. They get blocked from everything. That's standard practice. We really try and watch it. We try and keep the fights down as much as possible. We don't agree with everything that people say, which is fine. I mean, that's the whole reason for it. You want people to see a subject, ask questions, give their versions of it, give their opinions, good, bad, and that's how you figure out solutions to some of the things that are really happening to the vape industry. Regular members, we can post. I can post as myself on here. As a matter of fact, the first post in there explains that, yes, the admin part, we have no access. So posting is okay. but there's no control over anything, and I can't even add people in there. And we've got a lot of people joining to and sharing the post. But then they went further. They basically wiped out, we had hundreds, close to 1,000 posts and there of all the various articles, links. It was so people could keep track of things. We try and organize it, we try and update it all the time throughout the day. Spend a lot of time keeping it, and people are sharing them. They've wiped out all those posts. I don't know even if, and I say if because we don't even know if they're going to give us back access to the admin section. If necessary, I'll set up a whole new account, but we're talking about like months and months worth of information, sorted, organized, a lot of contributions from our members and so on for advocacy, international wise. And if they don't reset things, that's basically gone. And even worse, people have been taking the posts and sharing it naturally on their pages. All those posts are wiped out too. Now, we don't know if they give access back to the event section so we can log in, if that means they're going to restore all those posts as well, or if they're just going to make sure that nobody gets to share any of those posts. There was nothing really inflammatory, but yeah, we called out people and we shared it, and we covered a lot of the topics, and it's important information for vapors. We're not smoking. We aren't advertising tobacco. We don't even do advertising on here. We don't allow giveaways. We don't, like on the board, we don't have any giveaways. We ask people to keep memes down to the minimum. We keep it about vape advocacy issues. Links to the articles, including the ants articles, the fake reports and so on, so that people are aware of it. But they don't want them, and I can't even get rid of the spam posts. So that was a real nasty wake up this morning. So yeah, I've been going since this morning and I'm pretty much wiped. So that's why there's this impromptu, nothing really planned piece. I don't know how long I'm going to keep this little one going. I'd like to keep it short and cover main issues later, but it's a mess. The reason I say we don't know if or when we're going to get back is apparently people who have had the same sort of thing happen to them on Facebook, they say it can take anywhere from a few hours getting access back to a few days, a few weeks. Some people have been waiting months and still don't have access back to their group management. And I don't know if those posts are going to be there. I hope they did not delete them, because there's a ton of information, and now more than ever, advocacy everywhere, not just in Canada, not just in the US, in the UK. What's happening in Delhi is a nightmare. So that's got to be cleared up. And before I get to that, it's been a crappy day, but I gotta do, and I normally don't do these, but I have to do some shoutouts to some great friends, vendors, manufacturers, people I've been hanging around with for ages. Back a couple of years ago when Bill 14, the anti-vaping legislation, was being passed in BC, Canada, where we're from, a lot of the local vendors on Vancouver Island, where the hearing was happening in Victoria, got together and attended. And so there's a fair amount of support for vape advocacy from the vendors and manufacturers, at least in the local area. And so they attended, and so I got to know a lot of these guys, and some in particular, and you've probably noticed I always put a special thanks, and that's like to the North Island Vapors, South Island Vapors, and the other guys. And that's just because they're basically the ones I get to rant to when I'm having a real challenging time, like this morning. Poor guys, I've been misting, like this has been a nightmare. They're always guys to go to, and they've been very supportive of Vape Distortion. and what we're trying to get done here. Um, it's more of a personal and a project for advocacy, and it's sadly needed. And yes, as vapors, we like our cloud competitions. We like all our new juices. Everyone loves the hand checks that people do. We try and get this strictly for the advocacy because it's easy to ignore it. And yet when you go to look for information, you've got to go to 1,000 different places, and we can't keep everything. But it gives people a source, local, and to also share with the other advocacy groups to cover things. So the guys, anyhow, I've known them for years, and they've been incredibly supportive of the project, even before it's fully going with the website and the Facebook and these YouTube videos. Anyhow, you've probably noticed in pretty much every single video, I keep going back to talking about the youth gateway myth, where vaping is going to lead to smoking. And I think I've used it in almost every video. Example I always go to is that banana cream pie tastes so good that now I have a weird craving to go lick a dirty ashtray. And the reason I always use that as the gateway example is that's basically what they're claiming. The reason vapors, ex-smokers, stay on their e-liquids and the vaping is we've got flavor again. We've got taste buds. Cigarettes taste like crap afterwards. Some people have tried them. And like they've gone like 3 or 4 months, and then, well, let me have one, and they're going, oh my God, it never tastes that bad. Well, yeah, it always did taste that bad. It's just our taste buds were gone. So I always use the example about my banana cream pie. And turned this out that Randy from Pacific Vapors was watching a lot of my videos, and he noticed something, that my supply was getting rather low. So, I mean, I had a little bit left, and I never thought anything of it. I'll head to the shop and try and get some at some point. But, yeah, that's the example I always use to talk about it. So, he decided that just wasn't going to do. So, went to the mailbox and had a little vape mail, unexpected vape mail surprise waiting for me. So, since I was running low, this, just give you an idea. There is the normal 30 ml bottle. This is what I had waiting for me of the Chiquita pie that I love and talk about so much. God, that thing's a monster. So yeah, I think I'm good for quite a few videos. Bring that up every time with the reference for the gateway thing and having as my daily video. This has been pretty much my banana cream pie for months now in that tank and mod. So Randy, Pacific Vapors, gotta love you. Thank you. I have to give a shout out. So that brightened my day. I got that just a little while back. Then John, one of the other supporters and big guy during the Bill 14, he really caught on and seemed to appreciate a lot of the stuff that we tried passing on about the advocacy. And he's been a huge support. But the thing is, from day one, and I've known him for a couple of years now, from day one, I keep teasing him that I've never even had a chance to try any of his company's juice. Now, for those who watch me regularly, I like my zero nic. I started on a 24 milligram, went to an 18, dropped briefly down to 12, then went right to a zero nic, and it just happened to be what I like. I don't mind. I've got one juice which has a little bit of nic in it because I can't get the flavor anymore, and they didn't have zero nic. but pretty much about 99.5% of my juices are zero nic, and it just happens to be what I like. But the thing is, I don't personally use the fancy devices. As a matter of fact, I still have my old spinner from about 3 years ago, and it doesn't seem like much, but I use it daily. I've got my old MVP that still works. Oh, dead battery. Have to recharge that. And basically, I've got my iStick 20 for the low power things. I don't get into the fancy mods. I do have a couple of small ones. I've got my i50 for the sub-ohm, and that's my Chiquita pie, my banana cream pie. And I've got my Tiger Tail that I like in another one. But I really don't have a lot of device. I've got some of the old 3rd generation stuff around. But I really didn't have too much. But I kept teasing John from VIP because in all the years I've known him, I've still yet to try his juice. Even when I go to the shops, the local shops here that all carry them, I still haven't tried it. And I keep telling him, well, I like zero nic, which is true. I like zero nic. What I didn't tell him was I've got no problem if all they have is a 3 or a 6. I mean, sure, I'll get a bottle of it. So it was just a lot of fun teasing him that all the years I've known him, I still never tried anything from his company. So he knew that I still use a lot of 2nd and 3rd generation and 1 or 2 fourths, but a lot of 2nd and 3rd generation devices still. And he decided all the teasing I've been giving him all these years had to come to an end. So, another vape mail surprise. I had a nice little surprise waiting for me, a nice little iStick Power. And he sent the Cleto tank, and the Cleto tank, performance-wise, I love it. I love the taste of it. I don't like the design so much with the drip tip, and he did send the larger glass tank to put in it, but I just find it awkward the way it refills. But the tank itself works great, and a lot of flavor comes out of it. But the reason he sent it to me was he decided to shut me up. He was going to send me some juices to try. So I've been trying them and enjoying them, and the one that actually has me really going, and as you probably noticed, haven't had it long, but it's going fast. And is his Nanner bread, dude? I got his. Like I said, I don't do reviews, so don't take my taste buds. Don't take the way I vape as any buy it, don't buy it, or anything like that. Everyone has their own ways, but for me, dude, you nailed the banana bread. That Nanner bread, even right down to the nuts. I've been loving it. So a special shout out to John from VIP Liquids. Loving it. And like I said, people, you have to understand, these are things that aren't things that I'm asking for or anything else. They just support it, and they've been appreciating the channel and the sort of thing that they send out. So normally I don't do shout-outs, but I had to. And I am going to have one more to do. Let me just switch over here. It's actually a local group, and see if I got them on here. Here we are. And see if I can pop this up here. And it's one of the Facebook groups. Here, I'll switch to a different one. There we go. One of the local vape groups, Pacific Clouds. And again, a lot of the local shops are all members of it, and a little close group. But they've really been promoting getting the members to start paying attention to the advocacy issues and joining the Facebook group page, keeping track of what's happening, because what happens in the States, what happens in Delhi, what happens in the UK, Australia, in Europe, it affects what happens in Canada as well. So they've really wanted to try and encourage their members to, hey, even if you don't get involved with the advocacy, pay attention to what's happening, because it is going to affect the vape industry locally and elsewhere very harshly and very quickly. So they've been sending a lot of people over, and that's why when I got to the page this morning, the Facebook group page, and went to do the usual moderation and start going through all the news, tracking down everything, what's happening in the New Delhi, the WHO stuff and all that. When I got that was heartbreaking, especially we just had about 200 of the Pacific Cloud members join in, and I'm hoping Facebook puts back everything that was there. There was nothing improper whatsoever in there. It's all discussions of the issues, both good and bad. It wasn't all one-sided. It wasn't like it's, this is what the real truth about vape. Yes, we put that in, but we also included a lot of the misinformation so that people are aware of what's being said, and a lot of the areas which debunk it, and getting discussions going, pros, cons of various approaches. In other words, being proactive at least in being aware of things. So whether we get that back or not, it's hard to say. But it is critical. The recent election, in all honesty, I'm not really a Trump fan. A lot of Canadians, we're laid back, but we're fairly, not everybody, but most are fairly open-minded. Like, we don't really notice race as much, or religion preferences, or ethnicity, or gender preferences, or whatever. So that's why Trump has always rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, he's been doing this for years. It's not new, and he basically goes on censored. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But he goes uncensored, which is just something that really rubs me the wrong way. But the one good thing with him is, and this will happen like with the WHO and so forth, which I'll get to very, very briefly. The only really good thing I see from the election is he doesn't like being told what to do, or that he has to obey somebody else. So hopefully he might be one possible person that will take a look at what the FDA is doing in the States, with the WHO and FCTC done at the COP7, trying to get the bans pushed, start looking at what some of these provinces and the states are doing for the taxation and the classifying vaping as smoking banned areas only. Just give an idea. With the taxes we've got, and this is why I was going to do a show last Wednesday. It was changing so fast, I decided, screw it, wait till after the election. But some of these things have passed, some haven't. Pennsylvania, apparently they've gone back to their 40% tax. I haven't done a follow-up to see if that's passed or not. I think it has, because I'm pretty sure that was done at the local level. Hopefully somebody can drop a message in the YouTube chat or whatever. And what I'll also, actually, speaking of YouTube chat, I should just keep that handy. I don't usually expect anyone to be following me, so I don't have it running very often. But there, it's up in case somebody does want to post in the YouTube chat. But I'll follow up with that. Normally I would have done that this week and kept track of that. California, their Proposition 56, that is a nasty one. Very, very misinformed for the California voters. They basically got completely bullshitted into voting for it. And unfortunately, a vape tax classified as tobacco product now is passed there. And it's a high one. So that's really going to affect a lot of businesses. A lot of people are going to end up going back to smoking, because if you haven't got the shops that can afford to stay open, they've got to close down. So the government basically gets no tax if there are no companies there. And if there are no shops, or if they start all closing down and can't get the supplies, vapors are going to go back to smoking. Or they pay an even higher tax, but also their health goes to crap, costs a lot more in healthcare services. In California, who wanted this big tax to pay for their healthcare systems, when vaping was saving them more money than they can even collect from a tax just in healthcare cost savings alone. Anyhow, there won't be that tax there, and people are it's a mess. It's a nightmare. Kansas, I know, was looking for a public ban, smoking ban. There have been actually a few other places now. I had them all on the Facebook group page. Unfortunately, that's why it's really frustrating not having that page. I try to keep everything sorted and categorized so that people could find information quickly for it. And so if you needed a specific areas, we kept track of individual states, the US-wide, Canada-wide, UK, Delhi. That I've got 4,800 bookmarks, but it's not something I can access quickly for recent information. So I'll have to follow up, find out what's happening there. Colorado had a tax vape tax proposed. North Dakota, I'm not sure. I think both of those were defeated. Most of the vape taxes during the elections were defeated. California didn't. I'm not sure how many did pass. Minnesota, and I don't know if this was part of the election propositions or not, but they're at one point they wanted to get vaping reclassified as legally reclassified the same as smoking. So in other words, it would not be vaping anymore. It would be considered smoking. I mean, there is no smoke. It's vapor. There's no combustion. There's nothing in it. But they want the legal definition changed there, and that's in Minnesota, and reclassified as actual smoking, which is going to affect insurance and everything else, but then it makes it easy for them to do the tobacco taxes and anything else they want, complete bans on smoking. And I'm not sure, but I think they're looking at about a 95% tax, tobacco tax. Why does that affect things everywhere? Guess what? In Canada, we've got taxes that are going to be coming up. For that Bill 14 that I was talking about for the BC regulations, the Honourable Terry Lake, he said, oh, well, we will not be taxing vape products as tobacco products. And people fell for that. He hasn't yet. But there's one thing they did. They actually put vaping as part of the Tobacco Tax Act as well. So at any point, they can really say, oh, well, it is under the Tobacco Tax Act regulations, so now we can activate it. So just because if somebody says, well, yes, we're making this legislation, but we aren't really going to enforce it or use it. Well, if you're not going to enforce it or use it, you don't need it in there. So the fact that it's in there, yeah, they damn well do plan on taxing vape products as tobacco. And it's happening elsewhere throughout Canada as well. And that's why I say what happens in the States happens in Canada as well. They follow suit. Health Canada follows FDA's lead. And often Canada is used as the test ground in small cities for some things before they start trying to pass it at the local levels or state levels in the States. So yeah, the FDA and Health Canada, just because you don't see one or the other taking over doesn't mean it's not happening. Health Canada for years has tried shutting down vaping. They've threatened shops in writing that if the shops didn't stop selling their products, they would consider legal action against them. Now, a lot of the shops did close down. The smart ones actually challenged them and said, okay, under whose authority? And it was, well, no, we have not authorized or made these legal. Yeah, except they didn't have jurisdiction because it didn't meet their 4 milligram minimum for medical, and they didn't have the tobacco at the time jurisdiction, so they had no jurisdiction over the e-liquids. The levels that were in the juices didn't even remotely come close to their absolute minimum jurisdiction control version. Yet they've still illegally been using taxpayer funds for putting out threats and shutting places down. There in Canada, we actually have vape organizations who support Health Canada's claim that they have jurisdiction. Even worse, on record, in hearings, they have said, well, yes, our members are selling illegal products. E-liquids with nicotine are illegal in Canada, which is bullshit. They have always been perfectly legal because they don't fall into the category. They fit under consumers' goods. But now, with the FDA, once they started in New York, Health Canada started doing the same provincial levels here. Excuse me. Moved things into a tobacco category. Now, in the States, the FDA says, oh, well, we had to move it to a tobacco category because we couldn't get it classified as medical because medical claims weren't really being made for it. And therefore, it was the only classification area that we could put it in. What they didn't tell people was bullshit because, and again, I had it, and who knows, maybe this is part of it, but I actually had on there, and I will put them back on. I'll do a separate video, put them on the channel sometime in the next week or two. But it had the actual regulations from both the U.S. version and the Canadian version, which are both different, but actually in full legal definitions and everything else and structure, vape products fit perfectly. As a matter of fact, the legal definition in Canada, it did fit. Take a one word, which was sports, and it did fit. Those classifications were set up for everything from chemical safety, product labeling, everything could have been done under those categories. But the FDA slipped it out of there, made it tobacco, said, oh, well, our only other option is medical, and it doesn't fit there, so it has to be here. They admit the fact about the consumer's goods. Health Canada did the same thing in BC Bill 14. They kept saying, oh, no, it doesn't fit medical, so it has to go in tobacco product. Even no nick. Like I said, my no nick that I use, one thing I'm going to point out right now. You'll hear a lot of international companies, and even throughout the States, they refer to these as ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems. Wrong. I won't use that. I refuse to. It's a vape device. Plain and simple. I don't use it for nicotine. They're saying, oh, well, the intent is there. No, I don't use it for nicotine. It's a no-nick. It's a vape device. Can it be used with e-liquids with nicotine? Yes. But that doesn't guarantee intent. And when they're basing it on intent, that's complete bullshit. So this is a vape device. It is not an electronic nicotine delivery system. ENDS. So hopefully, I would love to see people internationally start correcting that. Start challenging them on that term. And if a challenge can go through, that's good because a lot of their legislation is being written with that as the definition. And it's not specifically applicable to them. It doesn't necessarily fit. So that's something ahead. Anyhow, Health Canada is doing the same thing, and we have some vape groups and organizations that are actually supporting that. They agree that if this had nicotine, it would be illegal in Canada, and it's not. It did not fit under, and yes, it could have been regulated under consumers' goods. That'll be for a future episode as well. Normally, I would love to start just doing a lot of news coverage to keep people up to date of what's going on. Let me just switch over here. Usually first thing in the morning, I start going through all my searches to track down what's happening new. For instance, what we have this morning. And this is why I like the Facebook. I could just sort through it. Nobody else had to bother reading through everything. I would click to a link, read through everything, see if it was applicable, if it was advocacy related or whatever. I would post it in there, and I'm just going to shrink myself down a little bit here, there, so I can fit a little bit better. If it had an advocacy value or interest or topic or issue, I would include it. Now, unfortunately, until I get my Facebook back, this is going to have to do. But yeah, it's a lot of things like one of the big things is, okay, St. Louis now is great. St. Louis is looking to ban people under 21. So if there are any smokers, you can go to war, you can die there, you can whatever, but if you want to get off it, no, you're going to have to wait till you're at least 21 before you can even vape anymore. Stupid law. And no, raising the age does not cut it down, because guess what? Teens are going to go do whatever. I mean, you look at the drinking age, you look at the driving, everything else. I mean, they're going to do what they do. Raising it does not make it harder. It just means they go get it underground or get somebody else to scam it for them. So, stupid regulation. It's going to end up, if anything, getting teens onto smoking. And the reason vapors get so adamant about all this is we've been through the smoking route. Many of us, myself, I spent over 35 years smoking, and it's pain to get off. We don't wish that on anybody. We'd rather teens didn't smoke or vape whatsoever, but it's going to happen. But now raising the age is not going to do anything. Smoking ban, indoors, all areas. Okay, let me just check this quickly. And I'm pretty sure this is the China one. Yeah, Shanghai. So, pretty much Shanghai is looking at banning smoking and so on. Anyhow, I would normally go through all these and go sort through them all, and try and weed through some of the things. I go from the bans. I even check the tobacco ones, see if there's anything happening in the tobacco industry or battles or so on which might affect us. Here's one that just popped up in the last 10 minutes. So I haven't even seen. So what the heck? Let's just do it live. You see what I go through. So how do we know if? And what I look for is to find out if it's an ANTS article, a generic fluff piece, or whatever. So proponents tell them a safer recent study. Okay, recent study conducted by research company. Okay, the British American Tobacco. Test them. Scientists known. Let's see, yada yada. Test researchers. I'll tell you what. I'll let you go through that if you want. There. You can reach it easy, so you don't have to take the whole thing. It's tinyurl.com/ all lowercase JVB97EW. If you want to read that. So there's that. The e-reporter. That's covering the WHO. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let me just check quickly on e-cigarettes. Yeah. Here's the big thing happening right now, and you'll see it spread all over the place and flooded, and the ants are loving it. The dangerous levels of chemicals in e-cigarette flavors. Flavored e-cigarette vapor contains dangerous levels of chemicals, new research reports. Flavored e-cigarettes are unacceptably dangerous, study finds. Hazardous chemicals discovered in flavored e-cigarette vapor. E-cigarettes flavorings contain high amounts of cancer-causing chemicals and exceed blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this has been the recent flood of it. And again, on the Facebook group page, it's been covered and completely debunked. As a matter of fact, and now I've got to go strictly by memory, so these figures might be off. Hopefully somebody can double check. But the way they did the study of over 3,000, it was over 3,000 people. I forget the exact number, 3,248 or something like that. It was over 3,000. And they came up with all these figures of kids who never vaped, never smoked, then vaped, and then later on were smokers. they correlated automatically, saying that, oh, well, that shows that vaping leads to smoking, except there was no connection with the actual vaping to the smoking or vice versa. Um, it just meant those who experimented with the vaping might experiment with cigarettes, but there was nothing showing a direct correlation. You couldn't. Their data and the way they did the study, well, not even a study, it was more almost like a poll. Um, it couldn't prove anything. Their data was not even conclusive. Hey, Vape Customs, sorry if I didn't see you earlier on the chat there. I'm not used to people dropping in. I usually end up just ranting for ages. Welcome to the channel. So anyhow, what they also didn't explain was that by the time they got the figures, it was something like 26 students out of the 3,000 or 3,200, whatever it was, were the figures that ended up checking, yes, I was neither, and then I tried vaping a while ago, and lately I've tried cigarettes, and the study says, oh, see, that proves it got there. That's one of the ones going around. Then this other one, the one throughout all here, are the dangerous toxics, came pretty much around the same time. And again, their the way they're doing it makes no logical sense, and it's been debunked. And I've got a feeling that's one of the reasons why, because I started putting in the reports throughout on the Vape Distortion group page, links to all the debunking, and these guys went through it, fine-tooth comb, and yes, this was the right approach. Here's where they misinterpreted. And the chemicals was complete BS, because they turned out to be chemicals that would appear almost no matter what, from the way they're being done, and very rather selective and improperly done. So, but naturally, all these were, oh, yep, this stuff's going to kill you. Cancer-causing chemicals, and that's been debunked so many times. We've got, they make great headlines, hazardous chemicals and so forth. Oh yeah, here's what I was talking about earlier. Teens who vape more likely become heavy smokers. Normally all this I would have on the Facebook page. Facebook, let me check. I will check, see if they have given me back my account. No, they will still not let me go in, and they've taken down all the vape advocacy issues. Anyhow, so there's all that stuff. And this is what I usually go through, and then I go to the e-cigarette sections, and then I've got different headline tags that I check and vaping. So I usually try and do all the sorting through so that people don't have to read through 100 different random articles when they haven't got time, and I try and sort through that. So Facebook did not like that. I guess we're upsetting some of their people. Now, give an idea, in Delhi right now. Well, actually, let me just see something. Should mention, for those who don't know, the World Health Organization, the WHO. Now, they've really been causing a lot of trouble lately and going absolutely... Sorry, not that WHO. That WHO. In Delhi, they've been pushing to get vaping banned. As a matter of fact, on the site, on the Facebook group page, we had links to some of the documents where they actually wanted full vaping ban before this COP7 FCTC hearing in Delhi, the clandestine meeting where they've blocked out all the public. They've thrown out, even physically, the journalists who were trying to cover it. But even back in August, they had their structure of what they wanted this meeting to impose. And one of them is a vape ban. They want, number one, global tax on the vape products. They want, in other words, they want the funding. They want it globally. An additional tax around the world. Anybody with vape products or selling them Then they also want complete bans. They want full restrictions. They want, it was all pre-planned. This whole meeting, the FCTC meeting, is complete bogus sham. There is nothing happening of, oh, we're here to discuss what should be done. They've already put out their full intended impositions and dictatorship of what they think will happen. As a matter of fact, they've refused scientists. Well, I should clarify. They've refused the scientists who can dispute their claims, who can debunk them or actually have scientific stuff, like Dr. Farsalinos. He's probably done more on the industry and brought out both good and bad than anyone. He's not allowed to present there. They have said no. They won't. They didn't even invite him. A lot of the other ANTS groups, the anti-tobacco and nicotine groups, and the anti-vaping groups, they seem to be okay, but they're all supporting what the WHO wants. And again, I gotta do this. Sorry, this was too much fun. It's not this WHO, it's this WHO. Anyhow, they're the ones involved with it. And a big thing there is, and now I will actually switch over to there. Switch over. Get rid of that. Here's why I don't normally do it live. But a lot of them are down there. There's rebel.com. If you haven't seen their videos, watch them. They're great. They're short, about the journalists being thrown out, and they were on camera thrown out, and the Canadian reporter was called, "Oh, you're just a little child. You shouldn't be here. Go have children." That's the attitude that they had, and kicked out the journalists. The one guy, they grabbed the lanyard, ripped off his press pass, and refused to give it back to him, then physically threw him out. Anyhow, Richard Puddle Coat is down there, and this is even scarier. Great blog. Some I bother with, some I don't, but this one scared the hell out of me. This was going to be covering A Billion Lives, which did their premiere the other night there. And so everyone was looking forward to hear that, because A Billion Lives, the Winston man, one of the main people in their documentary, was banned for no reason from a tourist visa. And one of the things they said, well, his picture's too fuzzy. And we've all seen the picture, and it's not fuzzy. It's actually pretty clear. You can tell, yeah, this is him. But that was their excuse for banning, because he's very vocal against what the WHO have done. He's given them back their award because he wants nothing to do with it, the stuff there. So they were doing their premiere. So Dick Petalcoat was going down there, and he starts talking about it. And this opening sentence, this doesn't even have anything to do with vaping, but just to give you an idea of what's happening there. The government gave 72 hours notice, and we're going to declare that all 500 and 1,000 rupee notes cease to be legal tender within 72 hours. Now, most of the tourists there, most of the reporters there and everything, they carry the small amounts around because you need it for getting around. It's the only way you can get around. It's the only way you can go get your meals. So to kind of shut that down, government decided, hey, let's just automatically make these illegal tender in 3 days. A lot of the people there don't even have accounts, bank accounts. So just the government doing that. I mean, the day before they'd passed overnight a law saying that not more than 4 people could even travel together. That was to get rid of the farmers who wanted to protest why they weren't even being heard or listened to. Anyhow, he went on about meeting, and Aaron and the team and crew apparently did an absolutely awesome job, and it was a very successful presentation and premiere in India of A Billion Lives. Except that then they got notice that where is it? Gotta read. Just as everyone was enjoying themselves, a dark cloud of public health interference came and wrecked it. because this was the same day that the regulations on e-cigs were being debated at COP7. Well, first of all, there actually is no debate. It's instructions by the World Health Organization. And word reached us that an unholy alliance of India, Kenya, Thailand, and Nigeria were demanding that the WHO recommend a global ban. Not just a tax, an entire global ban on the manufacturing and sale of all vaping devices and liquids. So this is why it's important to keep track of what's happening elsewhere. If that goes through, and you have to understand, most of the countries have signed a signatory agreement to abide by the WHO's, World Health Organization's, what they pass. So they're pushing for a complete ban. Well, actually, they want the tax and restrictions. And you've got others that now in the group are pushing for absolute, complete ban of the products. In other words, products are not allowed. That goes through. We've all got to really crank up, and I don't give a shit if you don't like your neighboring competitor or whatever. The shop's got to get together. The manufacturers got to get together. Different organizations got to get together. Get on the same page, because they might have to fight back against this. And most of them are signatories, so a lot of the governments probably won't. They'll say, hey, whatever you pass, yeah, that's the rule. So you're looking at a committee of politicians, and Canada has a delegation there as well. And guess what? Remember I was saying earlier, Health Canada's been trying to get rid of vaping and ban it for years. The head of the Canadian delegation, who also voted to throw out the journalists, is the rep from Health Canada. And she's the head of our Canadian delegation for protecting public health. Yeah, right. So the writing's on the wall there. There's a lot that's going to be coming down. Now, at the very beginning, I said I'm not a Trump fan. In Canada, we just don't like his attitudes. Some probably do, but it is what it is. He's going to be the president. Michael Siegel brings up one good point. He might, because of his stubbornness, where he does not like being told what to do. That's something very, very obvious about it. He will do what you want to take him on. He'll try and shut you down. That might be the one way, especially if he gets wind that the WHO FCTC COP7, they've decided that he must obey what they say and ban the flavors or do the global tax, but he has no option. He has to obey them. And that might just piss him off just enough that when he does take office, that he'll say, screw you, and shut that whole thing down. Start going to him and start saying, by the way, these, like in Pennsylvania, the 40% tax in Pennsylvania, that shut down and actually wiped out a lot of the vape shops and closed down a lot of businesses. Your California tax now, that is going to send a lot of people back, like close down a lot of businesses and end up sending people back to smoking. We can use that to remind him that, by the way, and personally, we're from Canada. We're spoiled. We have a decent healthcare. Most first world nations have public healthcare, supported healthcare. It's preventative, so you don't have to wait till you're critically ill, where costs are going to be unrecoverable or you're going to be suffering or dying. It's preventative care, and that's why it's necessary. But your healthcare system, that's up to you. But he wants the Obamacare gone, which I know I can understand a lot of you not feeling comfortable with it. Personally, it's probably helped a lot of people, but that's for you guys to figure out. It's not a great system. It has a lot of growth to go through before it reaches what a lot of other countries have done. Same as like even Canada, we're learning a lot from others. Regardless, use that as a bit of an edge. For instance, Trump the whole time says he wants Obamacare gone. I'm going to make this. It's going to be bigly better, bigly better, bigly better. I have something planned that is you're going to love it, whatever it is. We haven't thought of it yet, which I can't believe he actually did say. Well, we've got things that we haven't even thought of yet that are going to be in this, which is rather remarkable platform, especially when he still win. But he hates the Obamacare so much, and that's such a huge platform, and for all his supporters, something that he's probably going to try and shut down. That might be a one opportunity. Whether that gets shut down or not is neither here nor there. But for U.S. groups and associations to approach saying, these groups like in California with all these taxes and everything, they're getting people back to smoking. And yet, even in the UK, one of the reasons they push for vaping as a harm reduction is because they've realized, even with all the promotion they've been putting through their stop smoking programs, which encourage the vaping switch over now, all the money they even put for promoting it, they're saving way more just in the healthcare costs. And that's why financially it's a huge gain. So here you've now cut down healthcare costs if you encourage the switch from smoking to vaping, and that's going to save a fortune. You've already saved a fortune in the healthcare costs, and that lets you work with more. But make it as, but the other guys, they want people back on smoking. They're doing this. It's driving the people out of business, so it's running all your constituents out of business just so they can get them back on smoking, so they can get their taxes. And they're saying, screw you. You have no right. We can do whatever we want. Use that approach, and who knows? He might just say, you know what? I promised you big results for healthcare. Here's a huge healthcare savings we're going to do now. We will encourage vaping, and then he might even look at FDA stuff and say, screw you. Nobody tells him. He doesn't like people telling him what to do. Hey, FDA says you have to do it. That's an approach to consider. Anyhow, I digress. Like I said, we're getting the same sort of tax things coming to Canada. Again, somebody can check on Colorado, North Dakota. I'm pretty sure they failed being passed. Pennsylvania, I think, is back on the 40%. They aren't doing the milliliter. But again, I can't confirm because my Facebook has been blocked out. Minnesota. This is one. I don't care if you know anybody in Minnesota. Make sure they're aware and follow up. I can't get to the actual article because it was on the Facebook and Facebook pulled it down. But I pointed it out. Minnesota wants vaping legally reclassified as smoking. I believe they're looking for a 95% tax on it as well. But they want it legally reclassified instead of vaping. It will be considered smoking. There's a reason why, even if you're not in Minnesota, you've got to spread the word around and make sure this gets shut down. Go to your own local state reps or local reps or whoever, and at least fill them in the truth so that it doesn't happen there, wherever you are. Because as soon as one state or one locality passes something, that can then be used as precedence for the next place. And that's why you're suddenly seeing a lot of things being passed very quickly or almost without any notice. Is they can say, oh, well, such and such state did it, or yes, this county did it, and we should too. It's very popular among it. So, oh, okay, it's okay. Let's just do it. And they're doing it at the local level where they don't have to go through as many channels. And so, if one place starts reclassifying as smoking, guess what? Everybody's screwed because if the FDA or any other county or any state or in Canada, any province, whatever, decides, yeah, let's make that an official nationwide. We aren't smoking. We aren't smokers. We don't have anything combustible. I'm preaching to the choir. We know that. We've got to get the message out to the local politicians. You don't have to go into a whole history, but we do want to make sure that they realize that there is a difference between this and smoking. That is not smoke. Not even related smoke, doesn't carry the same dangers of smoke to the person or to the public. And that's why it should not be classified. I wish I had it. In the UK, there's been a lot of places trying to get public bans and smoking only areas. In other words, you could only vape where smoking was permitted. And that's been getting shot down very quickly. And they bring up the perfect fact of why should a non-smoker, a vapor is a non-smoker there, be forced to stand amidst all the secondhand contamination and smoke from real cigarettes and tobacco that's burning when they aren't a smoker. And yet these products don't have that effect, but the vapor has to be in a smoking only area. It makes no sense. So they're actually doing a lot of work things, and they're working out details. Put it this way, UK is so far ahead in at least support governmental, and they weren't at first. They were very anti until even the health organizations there did their own studies and realized that, well, shit, we save a lot, and the health improvements are great. They're very pro switching to vaping as a harm reduction, and it's paying off for them. They do have their issues as well. It's not automatic everywhere that it's accepted. So don't get me wrong, they're still going through battles as well. But we really need to use some of the approaches that they've used. When you go in and talk to your legislator or whoever, don't try and give them a whole history of vaping. Keep it short and to the point. Don't start off with personal stories. Start off with something like, yeah, you want healthcare savings, or do you realize that by putting this regulation in, you're going to be shutting down these businesses, so you lose all the tax from there, you lose all the employment tax. They're going to be shutting down. People are going to be going back to smoking. Your teens are then going to, because there's nothing around, they're going to start taking up smoking. And so you're going to have a rise there. And then you've got an addicted teen down the road years later. You've got all the healthcare costs from the smoking. And that's what will happen with this proposition or bill or what legislation, whatever they pass. In other words, show them how it affects their constituents and their bottom line financial dollar first. Start with that. Keep it simple. You don't want to tell them everything in the first round. First of all, it'll be overload. It'll be like Charlie Brown. It'll go in one ear out the other, and they'll just go like, is this guy ever going to shut up? Sort of like the way you guys feel about me. Anyhow, don't give them everything. What you want to do is follow up. A lot of times, the higher up in government you get, the busier and less likely it is to get a personal interview. And if you do, it's going to be just minutes. Ask to meet with their staffers rather than them directly. Their staffers are the ones who sort through everything and figure out what takes priority, what gets put forward, and what gets brought to the higher up, their boss. And they'll also give you a lot more time. And a lot of them are younger too, so they're a little more receptive to listening. And if they give you, well, yes, but we're worried about the teen issue on here, and as soon as they bring up anything like that, that gives you the opening to give them a very brief clarification, whether it's the gateway issue, whether it's tax issue, whether it's all the chemicals, like I said, from that all these articles of all these chemicals killing people from a bit back. It gives you a way to debunk them very quickly. They'll probably ask for more information, which is great, but the main thing is you want a nice little rapport. Answer their questions. Keep it short. Don't give them an entire history. Don't try and cover every single subject about vaping. Build a rapport so that they'll have questions and be able to contact you back, or they might be able to arrange a meeting or want more information, or if nothing else, they can at least feed the basics to whoever the MP is, so that they at least have some sort of knowledge of going in of, but wait a minute, what you're saying about all these chemicals isn't really the full fact here. It gives them something to fight back. So if you can fight it at a few state or provincial or county or city levels, that gives you a chance. But once someplace like if Minnesota passes this reclassifying as legally considered smoking, other places are going to do it too. And once you get a few that slip it through, and like I said, the lower level localized politics, they don't have to go through all the same chains of command and submissions and everything. They can pass it very quickly as a bylaw. That starts happening, and it spreads exponentially, just like the California and the Pennsylvania taxes on the vaping. So it's critical to get through that. And yeah, here we go. People are being urged to have their say in plans on a ban on smoking playgrounds and so on. So they're even looking at playgrounds and so on and so forth. But here's what happens when you have enough people doing things right and the government realizes that, shit, we save money in healthcare costs. Our people are living longer. There are a lot less health issues. First attempt at passing the legislation was defeated in March. And the first minister said there was no point in trying to bang our heads against a brick wall. Yada, yada. Where is it? Well, they don't mention, or they might further on, but one of the articles about that talks about they're trying to get it passed again. So these smoking bans in the parks and so on, which I really can't argue against, especially the smoking around the kids. I mean, you got the butts and everything else, and even the cigarette butts with the animals, like dog picks it up. It's toxic for them. When I was a smoker, I used to have pockets filled with my cigarette butts because I didn't like leaving them around like that. But I can understand public smoking ban around the schools and so forth and parks. But the nice thing is, one of the things they're trying to push it through again, but vape products and e-cigarettes have been removed from the proposed smoking ban area. So in other words, yeah, it will still be okay to vape. You won't be able to smoke, but you can vape. In other words, they're giving a reason to encourage people to switch. They're acknowledging that, yeah, we understand this doesn't have the toxicity of tobacco. It doesn't have the same type of public harm potential. They understand that, and they're putting it to effort. So local legislation do the same thing. Yeah, here we are, St. Louis looking at a ban. Congress has to pass vaping regulations in Florida and the U.S. Let's see, and that's about it for there. So, anyhow, this has gotten way too long. I originally started this just to bring people up to date of what happened with the Facebook group page. They still haven't given me an explanation or reason. So, normally you would. I've seen other people ban, and it's always like your account has been reported for spam or for such and such activities or for whatever. We've gotten nothing. But every single advocacy post we made, plus that post which others have shared onto their own pages, they've all been deleted as well. We've been tracking a lot of things and trying to bring everyone up to speed on all the different things happening. So somebody obviously didn't like what was happening and people finding out. And so, yeah, basically Facebook has censored Vape Advocacy. It's still hitting our... I mean, thank you, Randy. I'm going to need this probably all today. No, seriously, though. It makes no sense. We're in a wait and see what happens situation right now. but that doesn't mean we're going to stop. We do have the website, and actually, let me just see. And actually, I hadn't planned on using the website as much because it's much faster on Facebook if we can have all the links right there. You've got the blurbs, you've got the photos, you've got the topics. Other people can chat back and forth. We can discuss ideas. It made it faster. I'll have to program in a comment section, but I don't like them as much because they're kind of one-sided. And not that, but got to understand, I've been working with computers for 43 years. I really don't like the comments systems on a lot of systems. They aren't secure. They're secure for the sites. They aren't quite so as secure as a lot of the users think they are. There's a lot of information that can be used and misused, so that's why I don't like putting on a comment system, but I might have to program one in. But with vapedistortion.com, we'll try and switch as many of the articles once I get through them there as possible. It's not going to be as fast, so it's going to be, we won't be able to keep up. I've still got a lot to write on there for this Facebook channel. And yeah, I know I've ranted and rambled, and I do that a lot. There's so much shit that's happened over the past week. I'll try and do smaller snippets. If I can, I'd like to try and start keeping the shows under an hour and back to specific topics. Like I said, we might find a time to discuss the WHO. We might find a time to discuss what's wrong with all these chemical things. A lot of it, I'd like to start discussing more of how, whether it's Canada or the US or wherever, we can start approaching it from a different way than the industry has approached it so far. Thankfully, the States has a lot of advocacy groups. You've SFATA, you've got the TSA. A lot of them have put a lot of effort, and these guys know what they're doing, and they know what they're talking about, and you're getting a lot done. But they can't. Not everybody can do it on their own. Vapors are going to have to get involved. They don't want to. They're going to wait till it suddenly crashes down on them. Like California, suddenly all these taxes, shops are going to have to shut down, and then vapors are going to go, oh shit, what are we supposed to do? Oh, well, we'll just go online. Guess what? That's looking at being shut down as well. And Canada and Quebec, they aren't allowed to have vape products online. It's a mess. Vapors gotta start getting involved, even if you don't want to get involved so much. I ramble. Yeah, skim through some of these shows. You don't have to listen to me talk the whole time, but skim through some of the shows. Try and pick up some points. At least then you're aware. So if you're at a shop or you hear somebody saying, "Oh, well, yeah, teens are getting onto this." Well, yeah. Guess what? From that. And there's a lot of media right now. Yeah, this is really encouraging them to get smoking. It turned out that it was less than 1%. It was 26 kids taken out of a study of over 3,000, and then only a portion of them even checked 2 boxes, which didn't correlate to each other. It didn't mean that, oh, they were vapors, so that turned them into smokers. It didn't mean that at all. It just happened they checked those 2 boxes. And so they're claiming, yeah, that 1% shows an extensive number of teens are using vaping and moving on to smoking. Bullshit. At least then you're aware of what the arguments are. People, we gotta pay attention. It's not just here. It's not... UK, they might be getting support. They can't do it on their own. We can learn a lot from them. They're having issues too. So don't get me wrong. They haven't got it. Like, it's not perfection. Let's just move the model. There's going to be a lot of resentment. In Canada and the States, pharmaceutical companies want this shut down. Whenever you see campaign for tobacco-free kids, don't forget they've had over $8 million of funding from the Robert Wood Foundation, which is, what is it, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, whatever. I missed the site. Anyhow, their $8 million foundation. That foundation was actually set up by Johnson & Johnson pharmaceutical company. which happens to own Nicoderm, which is the nicotine replacement therapy, which can't compete in success rate against vape products. I mean, they're running a 3 to 6% success rate versus over 70% success rate. It's kind of hard to argue your contracts are being prepaid with that abysmal level of success. But they've got the money. And yeah, they're doing the funding. They want this shut down. States, U.S., with the WHO. There's money trail there. People, the vape shops, we've all got to get together. In Canada and BC, we really don't have any representation. We've got to try and get something together, a proper organization, and not the one from Ontario. There are reasons for that. But vape groups, you've got to get together. The shops, manufacturers, vapors, even if you don't get heavily involved, at least try and pay attention. If we get the Vape Distortion group page back up, a lot of you have joined because the local shops are very supportive of advocacy and they're very much proactive in the advocacy, and they want the customers and vapors to understand. Don't give up on that yet. Like I said, we're still fighting with Facebook. If that goes down, I'll do shorter versions. There's a YouTube channel. I'll start moving stuff onto the Vape Distortion website. I'll find ways to somehow try and keep up a little bit. There's so much shit happening. I might even try and just do audio podcasts daily, bring the news. Whatever happens, please stay tuned. Keep in touch. It's too important not to pay attention to. And Facebook might be shutting down all the advocacy we've been promoting. And like I said, hopefully they won't catch all the other groups as well. But if you start seeing a whole bunch of advocacy groups disappearing and a whole bunch of personal pages disappearing that are vape related, then you know it's too late. We've got to move on it. So help everyone else, support everyone else. Basically just stay aware. Stay aware of what's going on. And that's the best we can all do. Catch you again soon.